The silence of deep space is a lie, is in fact a symphony of subatomic hums and gravitational whispers, a vast, intricate chorus that no mortal ear can hear. From the bridge of the other's vigil, Admiral Celine Arcturus stared into the stars with the practiced gaze of a captain who had seen entire civilizations fall. The holographic stellar cartography before her glittered with the last mapped worlds of the Galaxy Alliance, now flickering like dying embers in a dying hearth. Every legend and testament pointed to one grim truth: the Zareth Collective held dominion over all, but whispers of salvation glimmered on the edge of oblivion. The weight of Command Celine's palms rested upon the obsidian railing of the bridge's panoramic viewport. The curvature of a nearby gas giant imbued in her a sense of cosmic scale. Tiny worlds adrift in a storm of interstellar politics, trade routes, and ancient grudges. Behind her, officers stood at their stations: navigators, tacticians, communications specialists, each wearing the fatigues of a fleet grown leaner with every battle. The Alliance, once numbering hundreds of warships, had been whittled down to a skeletal force by years of blitzkrieg assaults. From the Zareth dreadnoughts, Admiral, came the clipped voice of Captain Aaron Sue, the tactical officer. He tapped a sequence on his console, and the holomap zoomed in on the outer rim of known space. They hovered above HFY, an irradiated planet locked in the grip of a black hole's tidal pull. Radiation belts glowed sickly amber round its equator. Once, Tyra had been a cradle of scientific marvels. Now it was a tomb of lost hopes. Status report, Celine said without turning. Orbital defenses are offline, Admiral, Sue replied. Everything we scanned is buried beneath half a kilometer of slag and radiation. The Zareth have laid siege. Discipline, no civilian traffic, no probes. Celine exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the mission settle into the pit of her stomach. We knew it wouldn't be easy, she said. Still, we have to reach that planet's core. The other nexus may be the only thing standing between us and total subjugation. Ghosts of a fallen imperimaries flooded her mind. The day the Collective's psychic tendrils first swept into human space. The fearful hush that fell over council chambers. The broadcast of worlds capitulating one by one. She had been a young lieutenant then, stationed aboard the corvette Odysseys Dawn. She'd watched the Zareth hinge in on her home world like ravenous locusts, harvesting minds with a psionic resonance field that left its victims in catatonia. Her family, her mother, an artist, her father, a scientist, had vanished in the Collective's silent sweep. Now, as Admiral, she carried those losses as both burden and blade. Her staff said she wore steel in her eyes. She called it clarity. The galaxy needed hope, and if she could find it even in the radioactive heart of a dead world, she would. A gathering of minds in the ready room, a semicircular chamber lined with holoscreens and conference chairs. Celine convened her senior officers. At the center table, Dr. Malik Sayo, soft-spoken Xenop psychologist and architect of the expedition's psionic strategy, hovered over a 3D projection of the Nexus device. His dark eyes reflected the pulsing emerald core deep within the simulation. The legacy architects built this to amplify organic thought into pure energy, Malik explained, tracing delicate runes etched into the crystalline lattice. In the wrong hands, it can enthrall worlds. But if we reverse the polarity on its saptic harmonics, we could generate a counter wave powerful enough to shatter the Collective's psychic network. Captain Rhea Voss, leader of the landing party, leaned forward, her cybernetic right arm whirred softly with hydraulic servo motors. That's a big if, Doc. The Zareth dampeners in the outer trenches alone could fry our comms. We'll have to go in blind, Malik admitted, steepling his fingers. Rely on human instinct, and on the Anarus protocol. He tapped a holo button, revealing a sine wave pattern that shimmered like liquid glass, a resonance key written in archaic syntax. It aligns with the Nexus's own vibrational signature. It's our only chance. Celine watched quietly as her officers debated logistics, drop pod vectors, infiltration routes, armored exosuits. She knew each of them by name, each a veteran of too many battles. They'd given everything for this moment: blood, tears, dreams sacrificed on the altar of war. She would not fail them. The descent begins 2 hours later. The other's vigil adjusted its orbit to the edge of Tyra's Radiation belt. Below, the planet's surface appeared as a kaleidoscope of jagged canyons and lava-washed plains, illuminated by lightning storms that danced across the sky in sinuous arcs. Smoke plumes from geothermal vents curled into the air like giant serpents. Calm. Channel secure, announced Lieutenant Sal, the Chief Communications Officer. Inter-squad encryption is green. Command uplink will black out at atmospheric entry. Understood. Celine replied, Captain Voss, once you're on the ground, recover the Nexus. We'll provide orbital cover until your extraction. Sue. Maintain sensor lock. No Xerath reinforcements may slip through. Doctor. Be ready to guide them through the resonance calibration. A hush fell over the bridge. Each crew member understood the gamble. If they could not breach the Nexus chamber and reverse the harmonic lock, the galaxy would fall silent beneath the Xerath psionic rain. Through the firestorm to sleek drop pods shuttled Voss's squad toward the storm-thrashed skies of HFY. Through the pod's reinforced viewports, the team watched as electrostatic discharges lit the clouds from within, creating ghostly flashes that revealed the jagged silhouette of the ancient temple. Captain. Voss's voice crackled in their helmets. Brace for entry. Flames licked the pod's heat shields. The world outside dissolved into streaks of crimson and gold. Then, with a violent jolt, they punched through the turbulence into the petrified silence of the lower atmosphere. Visual. On target, reported one Marine, his visor tint shifting to enhance low-light vision. Below them lay the temple's shattered forecourt, half buried in ashen detritus. Obelisks of black stone rose like severed fingers. At their center, a yawning archway beckoned. Voss's pod impacted with a thunderous crash. Screams of displaced air roared as doors blasted open, and the squad spilled onto the scorched ground. They formed a phalanx, immediately plasma rifles raised. Augmented boots skidding across the glassy surface. Move. Voss barked, in and out in 10 minutes. Find the Nexus chamber. No heroics. Gouts of searing wind tested their exosuit shields. Each step felt as though they walked through a cauldron of molten metal. Shadows writhed at the corners of their sensors. Xerath sentinel drones, sleek as predatory fish, glided toward them with red holo eyes focused on the intruders. The Gate of Ancients team stormed through the archway, met by towering doors carved with interlocking glyphs. Veins of bioluminescent or traced serpentine patterns across the stone. Rhea placed her gauntleted palm against the glyphs. They pulsed under her touch, as if recognizing her command codes. The doors parted with a groan that echoed like a deafening heartbeat. Beyond lay a corridor of obsidian pillars, stretching into pitch-black depths. Phosphorescent moss clung to the walls, casting an eerie green glow. Every breath was tinged with metallic dust. Every footstep resonated in solemn cadence. Bring up schematics, Voss ordered. I want to know what we're up against. Mapping now, replied the navigator, fingers dancing over a wrist-mounted holodisplay. The corridor leads to 3 junctions. The central passage descends deeper, likely toward the chamber Malik described. Rhea nodded. Dr. Sio's resonator will guide us. Let's keep pace. As they advanced, the ambient hum grew into a low thrum, a living resonance that tickled the edges of sanity. Each soldier felt it in their bones, a subconscious tug urging surrender, compliance. But their neural dampeners held firm. At the 3rd junction, a massive gate of interwoven metal and crystal barred the path. Embedded in its center was a key-shaped recess surrounded by concentric rings that glowed with dormant energy. Here, whispered Voss, as Malik stepped forward, tray of devices in hand. He inserted the Anaris key, an alien artifact the size of a clenched fist, into the recess. The rings spun, the gates hum crescendoed, and then the barrier dissolved in a shower of sparks. Into the hardest staircase spiraled downward into infinite darkness. The team descended, each step reverberating like a drumbeat. Finally they emerged into a cavernous chamber illuminated by the pulsing light of the Ither Nexus. Tendrils of living circuitry curled around a crystalline sphere the size of a human heart. Every tendril throbbed with emerald luminescence, as though feeding on some unseen energy. Voss raised her rifle in defense. Secure the perimeter. Marines fanned out, plasma barrels sweeping across the shadows, but none dared approach the Nexus, for the psionic barrier it generated was palpable. a barrier stronger than any force field. Malik advanced, interface gauntlet humming. "Stand back," he said urgently. "I'm about to engage the resonance inversion." Celine's voice crackled in Voss's ear. "Status, all in position," Voss replied. "Dr. Seo is initiating." Malik nodded and keyed a sequence. On his gauntlet, the nexus pulsed violently, sending ripples of light through every tendril. For a heartbeat, the chamber seemed to breathe. Then the crystalline core split along an invisible seam, revealing an inner chamber of light. The squad held their breath. Everything depended on what lay within and whether they could activate it. Before the Zareth reinforcements broke through, above them, the black hole's gravity tugged at Tyro with merciless insistence. Below, humanity's last hope waited to be claimed or lost forever, and somewhere in the void, the galaxy's fate teetered on a knife's edge. A crimson dawn bled across the ashen skies of Ura as the Ether's vigils drop pods cut through the planet's ionized atmosphere. Lightning crackled around them in sinuous streaks of violet, illuminating the battered exteriors of the pods. Inside each cramped chamber, members of Captain Rhea Voss's landing party gripped their harnesses, bracing against the jarring descent. The roar of plasma engines strained against the infernal winds, whipping through the shattered remains of Tyra's once majestic atmosphere. Impact in the waste Alanthe lead pod tore through a wall of electrically charged clouds and slammed into the slag-strewn ground with bone-jarring force. Rhea's vision swam as she wrestled to release her restraints. Her cybernetic arm tingled with feedback. Servo motors whirred as she flexed her fingers, blood pounding in her ears. Around her, her Squad 12 hardened soldiers augmented with exoskeletal frames shook off the shock of impact and streamed out into the oppressive heat of the wasteland. And out above them, the temple of the legacy architects towered like a cutout from the ancient world, for monolithic spires of obsidian black stone, each crowned with broken glyphs that glowed faintly. In the stormlight, between the spires lay the yawning maw, the temple entrance, draped in cables of bioluminescent vines that pulsed like veins beneath human skin. Rhea bellowed into her comm. "Formation Alpha. Move to the ingress point now." Plasma rifles snapped open, casting pale blue arcs across the dusty air. The squad fanned out in a textbook wedge formation, boots skidding across fractured basalt and gleaming veins of glassy mineral. Each step left an imprint that hissed with residual heat. The first line of defense. No sooner had they breached the temple's outer courtyard than the Zareth met them, sentinel drones, sleek as hunting sharks, sprawled across the forecourt and predatory. Arcs, their inlaid holo eyes flared green as they activated, rotating on silent gimbals. With a keening whir, energy lances extended from their chassis, charging to lethal intensity. "Contact left," shouted Lieutenant Mara Keizawa, dropping to 1 knee and laying down suppressive fire. Arcs of plasma lanced out, striking the nearest sentinel. The drone's outer shell buckled, sparks erupting as it staggered, but it kept advancing. Its weapons still energized, Rhea sprinted forward, exosuit hydraulics propelling her in 6-foot strides. She hurled a thermite grenade at the drone's underbelly. The explosion flared in a blossoming flower of white-hot light. When the firestorm subsided, the sentinel lay smoldering and inert. "Keep pushing," Rhea called, her voice steely. "Marines, cover the flanks. Engineers, with me." Sergeant Juno Miles led two engineers specialists in psionic damping fields toward the temple's sidewall, where a panel of crystalline plating concealed wiring conduits. One of the engineers, Corporal Ahmed, slipped a compact geomatic scanner against the stone. It pulsed with green readings. "Looks like a maintenance shaft," he reported. "If we disable the shield emitters at the wall nodes, the temple doors should be exposed." Rhea crouched beside him, pressing her palm to the scanner's surface. "Do it. But hurry, the reinforcements will be on us in 2 minutes." Under Rhea's watchful eye, Ahmed extracted a series of microvibrators and sonic disruptors. The devices hummed as they drilled through the crystal plating, each precision burst severing a conduit. Within seconds, the damp glow around the monoliths flickered and died into the silent house with the exterior shields down. The massive double doors groaned open under the combined might of hydraulic rams and electromagnetic pulses. Beyond lay A cavernous hallway sheathed in living stone. The walls pulsed with veins of bioluminescent ore, casting the corridor in shifting hues of jade and teal. Every surface seemed alive, breathing. Listening, Rhea's squad advanced single file, rifles, sweeping the gloom. The air was thick with ionized particulates, each breath tasting of metallic dust. At intervals, relief corridors branched off ancient antechambers filled with relics, spools of crystalline data rods, skeletal remains of the planets extinct. Fauna and codices inscribed with arcane runes dot in one such chamber. Dr. Malik Seo paused, eyes alight with scholarly fascination. These glyphs, they predate even the old Earth hieroglyphs, he whispered. The legacy architects must have been here, cataloging psionic ley lines. Rhea nodded curtly. We're not here for history. Watch for traps. Malik's fingers danced across. A hand-held psionic scanner. It buzzed softly. There. A longitudinal resonance field, likely a security measure. If we cross the threshold without synchronization, it could fry our neural implants. Sync us up, Rhea ordered. Now, Malik activated his neural interface. A halo of violet light rippled out from his gauntlet, knitting his team's implants into a harmonic mesh. Rhea felt a tingle behind her eyes, a fleeting synchronization. Then the corridor's faint hum shifted, deepening into a resonant chord that welcomed them onward. The pitfalls of darkness, no journey deeper into Tyra's underbelly is without peril. As the squad pressed on, the corridor narrowed, forcing them into a single-file stretch. The walls, once smooth, began to undulate with living crystal, jagged edges slicing at sensor rays. Rhea signaled to halt. Trip mines, snarled Corporal Diaz, pointing to the floor. The plates were etched with glowing sigils unreadable to the untrained eye. Beneath each sigil lay a micro-explosive. Rhea exhaled. Engineers clear the path. Marines cover them. While Marines leveled their weapons toward every alcove, the engineers crawled forward, laser cutters carving precise incisions around each mine. Sparks flew, illuminating anxious faces. Malik hovered close, his gauntlet scanning for secondary triggers. Suddenly, the temple trembled. The tremor coursed up through the crystalline floor into Rhea's boots. Above them, somewhere, in the labyrinth, heavy footsteps articulated, metallic closed in. Zareth reinforcements, bellowed Lieutenant Ikezawa. Behemoth class means us to die. Before Rhea could respond, the ground split open. From fissures in the living crystal, grotesque forms emerged. Zareth dread sentinels towering, armored to the skull, bristling with dampening arrays and psionic disruptors. Their hollow eyes shone with lethal intelligence. Fall back to the junction, Rhea screamed. Hold the line. A last stand in the grotto squad raced back to the three-way junction they'd passed minutes earlier. There, a carved alcove offered tenuous cover. Rhea's heart pounded as she knew they'd soon be overwhelmed. The behemoth sentinels towered above, their dampeners flickering to life, ready to scramble calms and fry implants. Malik, Rhea hissed, how soon until the inversion sequence is ready? He glanced at his wrist console. 50 seconds, if I can maintain the resonance. 50 seconds. Diaz's face was grim. They're almost upon us. At that moment, the chamber quaked again. Crystal stalactites dripped phosphorescent moisture. The sentinels raised their disruptor cannons. Rhea weighed her options. Fall back through unknown corridors and risk losing Malik, and the Nexus Cure make a final stand here. Form a circle, she ordered. No one falls back. We hold this ground. Marines arranged themselves back to back. Plasma rifles converged on every entrance. Engineer teams set up kinetic barriers, holographic shields that flickered as bead upon bead of crystal dust clattered against them. Malik centered himself in the alcove's heart, neural interface humming. The corridors ahead dimmed as the behemoths approached, their footsteps hammering like mechanical heartbeats. Plasma lances slashed, shields flared and cracked. Marines returned fire with disciplined volleys, each shot scorching stone and shattering bone. Time slowed. Rhea felt Malik's voice in her calm, initiating inversion. Now, a keening tone, high and pure, rose from Malik's gauntlet. It reverberated through her bones, severing the psionic dampeners at their source. The behemoths faltered, their disruptor beams sputtering as their connection to the collective's hive mind wavered. One staggered, chassis sparks flying, another collapsed to its knees, hollow eyes blank. Push forward, Rhea roared. To the chamber now. Through the rift with the Zareth in disarray. The squad streamed out of the alcove into the corridor beyond. The living crystal walls seemed to pulse in response to Malak's resonance wave, illuminating a hidden door at the far end previously veiled by a shimmering energy field. The serrated edges of the tunnel gave way to a smooth threshold, etched with the ancient glyphs of the architect's dot as the team crossed the threshold. Rhea felt a shift in the air, a pull toward the planet's core, as though HFY itself recognized the return of the Nexus. The ground vibrated, and a low, mournful chant, half mechanical, half organic, echoed through the passage. Beyond the door lay the vast chamber that housed the Ither Nexus. Tendrils of bio-organic circuitry snaked across the walls, feeding into the central crystal heart. Its emerald glow bathed the chamber in an ethereal light, casting long shadows that danced like silent phantoms. Rhea raised her rifle. Secure the perimeter, Malak. I need that inversion link stable. If they come back, we'll need every bit of that counter wave. Malak nodded. Gauntlet crackling. Almost there, Captain. Just a few more harmonics. The air within the Nexus chamber was thick with latent power, a living resonance that pulsed through every bone and circuit of Captain Rhea Voss's landing squad. The walls, woven from bioorganic circuitry, glowed in undulating waves of emerald and violet. Tendrils that looked half vein, half fiber optic cables snaked across every surface, converging on the crystalline Ither Nexus at the room's core. It hovered suspended in a mesh of living metal, its facets spinning slowly, casting prismatic reflections that danced like phantoms around the cavern. The first contactor, Malak Seo, stepped forward, his neural interface gauntlet crackling with psionic harmonics. Sensors in his gauntlet traced every vibrational frequency emanating from the Nexus. Data streamed across his visor in translucent columns, amplitude, resonance phase, harmonic overtones, and arcane lexicon of pure energy. Captain, he murmured, voice tinged with awe. The Nexus is sentient. It's responding to our presence, analyzing us. Rhea's eyes sharpened. Can it be controlled? Malak paused, glancing at his console. If we can align our counter frequency precisely with its primary harmonic, yes. But if we misalign, it will reject us and possibly annihilate us. With a psionic backlash, Rhea nodded. I'll secure the perimeter. Marines, deploy psionic dampeners at 20-meter intervals. Create a stable field bubble around Dr. Seo. Marines fanned out, placing small crystalline nodes along the chamber floor. Each node pulsed on activation, weaving a protective lattice that muted the Nexus's raw psionic output to something manageable. Under the soft green light, Malak knelt before the central sphere and extended his gauntlet's holographic probe toward its synchronization linking. Malak intoned, his voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. He initiated the Anaris protocol, an archaic sequence of tonal commands and rhythmic pulses. Designed to speak the Nexus's language, the probe hummed, echoing through the tendrils, like a stone dropped in a frozen pond. The Nexus responded, a low keening that reverberated through the chamber's living walls. Rhea watched tensely as the sphere's facets flickered, as though considering his overture. Sparks of energy arched between tendrils, and the entire mesh vibrated in time with the protocol's rhythm. Suddenly, a spike, a horn of pure light shot forth from the sphere, striking Malak's probe. The gauntlet's readouts went haywire, alarms blared in Rhea's visor. She lunged forward, shielding him with her armored frame as the blast tore a jagged scar through the chamber wall. The Marines' dampeners flared, fighting to contain the energy. Rhea shouted, Malak, status. He panted, eyes wild with adrenaline. It's testing us. Pushing back. I need more data, more human thought. It's reaching for memories. Emotions trying to understand us. Rhea steeled herself. You have access to my neural link if it helps. Use whatever you need. Malak hesitated only a moment, then extended a secondary interface. Brace yourselves. He linked directly into Rhea's implanted memory matrix. Instantaneously, streams of her childhood images, her mother's laughter, her father's embrace, The day her corvette sank beneath Zareth, bombardment flashed across his gauntlet sensors. The Nexus absorbed them, rippling as it integrated. The raw human essence, the flood of consciousness, a wave of collective psionic feedback flooded the chamber. Rhea felt every memory amplify, echoing within her skull like a choir of ghosts. The Marines staggered as the dampeners strained against the surge. Tendrils writhed, lashing out to intercept the psychic deluge. For a heartbeat, the Nexus glowed with unbearable brightness, then recoiled. Malak's voice cut through the chaos. "I've got it, calculations complete." Initiating inversion sequence, he keyed a rapid series of tonal commands. The probe pivoted, broadcasting a counter-harmonic that built atop the Anaris protocol's foundation. The Nexus vibrated violently, then shattered its own crystalline shell in a bloom of white light. From the fractured core emanated concentric rings of raw psionic energy, expanding outward in perfect waves. Rhea braced at the epicenter. The force was not destructive, but transformative. Every living thing in the chamber felt its mind clear. Barriers dissolve, consciousness align. Even the dampened Marines gasped, their eyes widening as the superweapon began to do its work. The Zareth incursion bit. Victory trembled on a knife's edge from the outer corridors. The staccato thunder of Zareth reinforcements echoed. The gravity of the black hole above had caused fissures in the temple's structure, cracks through which beams of daylight from the gas giant above bled into the corridors. Zareth dread sentinels, stripped of their hive mind but still lethal, stomped through the breaches. Rhea barked orders: hold the gateway, corrals, divert the sentinels here, keep them busy until the wave is released. Marines swept into the corridor, establishing choke points with portable energy barricades. Bolter rounds and plasma bolts lit the tunnels as the sentinels tried to force their way in. Rhea re-entered the chamber, pistol drawn, to stand beside Malak as the inversion sequence reached its crescendo. Tendrils of energy spiraled out from the Nexus's broken shell, weaving through the dampeners and beyond the chamber's threshold. The counterwave surged through the temple, up the corridors, and into the blackened wasteland above. In every direction, it sought the Zareth dampeners, the psionic disruptors, the enslaved minds of countless species. Liberation outside, the ripple struck the Zareth warfleet, encircling HFY. Across the vacuum of space, every dreadnought and sentinel vessel shuddered. Their dampener shields flickered, then collapsed under the perfect inversion of their own psionic field. Automated weapons systems powered down. Fleet communications went silent. In ship's logs and on command bridges, psionic link cores shattered. On the bridge of the Other's vigil, Admiral Celine Arcturus's console flickered with confirmation. The collective's network was unstable. Subjugated worlds reported sudden clarity. Enslaved minds awoke in a collective gasp of freedom. Celine's voice came through Rhea's comm. The inversion wave has propagated galaxy-wide. All units, disengage hostiles and prepare for extraction. Aftermath of the pulsine, the Nexus chamber, the living circuitry dimmed, its purpose fulfilled. Malak sank to one knee, panting. As tendrils slackened around the fractured crystal, Rhea holstered her pistol and reached to help him up. He managed a weary smile. We did it. Outside, the Zareth sentinels, bereft of direction, stood motionless. A wounded silence settled over Tyra's scarred surface. Beyond the temple walls, the black hole's pull threatened to collapse the planet, but for now, they had bought the galaxy its final hope. Rhea scanned the chamber's penumbra. Shadows clung to corners, but the oppressive reverberations were gone. Where once the Nexus had sought to dominate minds, now it lay broken, its power spent in one final act of liberation. Captain Voss touched the shattered facets of the core gently. May your creators find peace, she whispered. Behind her, the Marines secured the chamber for evacuation. The inversion wave, now dissipating, would need reinforcement from orbital bombardment to hold the breach open until extraction. Yet, in this dimly lit hall, surrounded by veins of cooling energy, humanity's unyielding strike stood triumphant, ready to shatter the final chains of an empire built on stolen minds. The void above HFY burned with the fury of a dying star. Admiral Celine Arcturus watched from the Other's vigil's bridge. As the shattered remnants of the Zareth warfleet drifted powerless, sensor rays blinked erratically, feasting on data streams of psionic collapse echoing through space. Every flagship, every dreadnought, even the smallest sentinel drones lay dead in the water adrift and inert. "Admiral, orbital window closing," Captain Aronsu reported, voice taut. "The black hole's tidal forces are destabilizing Tyra S orbit. We have minutes, maybe less." Celine's jaw tightened. She gambled everything on the Ither Nexus's inversion wave. Now, forces beyond her control threatened to swallow the planet and her landing team. Still inside the temple, alongside Dr. Malik Seo. "Target the gravimetric tethers," she ordered. "Unleash the tethered warheads at my mark. We'll buy them more time." Below, squadrons of frigates and cruisers arced into position. Marauder-class destroyers unleashed volleys of gravitic charges, concussive mines designed to latch onto Tyra's crust and stabilize its wobble. Impulse pulses rippled through space, forming a fragile lattice of force fields against the black hole's pull. Charges deployed. Sue announced, holding. "Now." HFY shuddered, as if in relief, its orbit righting itself just enough. "Good," Celine exhaled. "Prepare the extraction wave. All drop ships, stand by." Inside the shattered temple, Captain Rhea Voss surveyed the ruined Nexus chamber. Crystalline fragments lay strewn like broken dreams. Across the mosaic floor, the living circuitry, once alive with psionic hum, was now cold metal veins, dark and fractured. Dr. Malik Seo stood at the chamber's center, tapping a handheld scanner against the largest shard of crystal. The device blinked green, then died. He turned, eyes shadowed with relief and exhaustion. "The Nexus is spent. We've harvested every last oscillation we can." Rhea holstered her sidearm. It was enough. She led her squad toward the passage that would ferry them back to the forecourt. Extraction in T-5 minutes. A tremor rattled the chamber. Dust cascaded from the ceiling. Distant crags cracked under the black hole's tug. Rhea signaled her team to quicken their pace. "Gates unstable," Malik warned, voice echoing in the narrowing arch. "We may have to reroute through the maintenance shafts." Rhea's boots pounded the jagged corridor. "Then move it." "People." They emerged into the forecourt just as the first sentinel drones, devoid of psionic oversight, but driven by lingering combat protocols, recalibrated their targeting arrays and opened fire. Rhea's squad hit the deck, plasma shields humming to life as bolts of green energy seared the obsidian stone, covering fire. She yelled, "Make for the pods." Engineers sprinted ahead, planting charge beacons on the temple's fractured walls. Explosions ripped through the black stone, carving a breach wide enough for drop pods to land safely. Above, the sky tore open as human frigates descended on attack vectors, cannon salvos tearing sentinel drones from the air before they could zero in on the landing zone. "Pods inbound." Lieutenant Ikezawa's voice crackled. Bright shapes pierced the storm-darkened sky, trailing streaks of ionized gas as they threaded between spirals of rubble. Rhea's team sprinted across the shattered courtyard, each step a gamble on fractured ground. Plasma rifles and vibro blades cleared their path, cutting down remnant Zareth constructs that surged from the temple's darkened corridors. One of the drop pods slammed into the earth at the temple's edge. The hatch burst open, and Marines helped Malik and the engineers aboard. Rhea's pulse raced as she saw the volatile black hole's event horizon glimmer above them. An invitation to oblivion. "Next pod." She roared, sprinting forward as blasts from sentinel drones whined past her helmet. Suddenly, the ground convulsed. A wave of gravitational shear snapped through the courtyard, throwing Rhea off her feet. She hit the jagged floor, visor cracking against stone. Stars exploded behind her eyes. "Captain Voss." Malik's voice, distant. "Get up. Pod's leaving." Rhea clawed herself forward, muscles burning. Through a haze of dust, she saw her squad forming a protective ring around the last pod. But sentinel drones swarmed like hungry wasps, their weapons spitting arcs of lethal energy. Fueled by resolve, Rhea staggered to her feet. Instinct seized her arm, and she fired a short burst of plasma from her pistol. The leading drone collapsed, systems grayed out. Another came down under her. Sustained fire. She swept back into the ring, sidearm blazing, picking off sentinels one by one as she fought her way to the pod hatch. Inside, she gasped, scrambling over backpacks and bodies. Marines hauled her in, slamming the hatch as gravity waves bucked the ground. The pod's thrusters roared, propelling them upward as the temple's fouade crumbled in a shower of obsidian fragments in orbit. The other's vigil registered the pod's return. Rescue tethers latched, and mechanical arms guided the battered vessels into the hangar. Rhea's pod rocked on the deck, smoke curling from its engines. Medics poured in as Celine moved through the corridor, eyes scanning for status reports. When she reached the pod's hatch, she saw Rhea help Malik from the interior. Both coated in grime and minor wounds, engineers and soldiers limped behind them, faces etched with relief. "Captain," Celine said quietly, pulling Rhea aside. "Report." Rhea shook her head, exhaustion giving way to triumph. Every last soul accounted for. "Nexus inversion completed. Zereth network is in freefall. We hold the galaxy's psionic frontier for now." Malik stepped forward, pointing toward the viewport. Through it, the Dead's Aerith fleet floated like cosmic wreckage against the swirling accretion disk of the black hole. The wave, it's reaching far beyond HFY. I read unfiltered signals of liberation on dozens of worlds as it passed. Celine allowed herself a small, weary smile. Then it was worth every loss. In the following days, fleets of allied ships lifted survivors from besieged planets. Recaptured vessels broke orbit under their own power, and the enslaved minds of countless species awoke from their psychic slumber. The galaxy, once on the brink of a unified tyranny, found itself staggering into an uncertain dawn. On the observation deck of the other's vigil, Celine and Rhea stood side by side, watching sunrise spill across the ship's forward shields golden, rays slicing through the hazy nebula that crowned HFY's horizon. "Salvation cost us dearly," Rhea said softly. Celine placed a hand on her shoulder. "True freedom always does. But now we have a choice: to rebuild, to unite, to ensure this never happens again." Rhea nodded, gaze shifting to the blackened planet below. "And what of Tyra?" Celine inhaled deeply. "We'll send scientists and terraformers and historians. This world's story, its sacrifice, must never be forgotten." A choir of ship bells chimed, signaling readiness to depart. The other's vigil's engines ignited, pushing the vessel away from the black hole's pull. One by one, allied ships ignited their burners, forming a convoy that glimmered like a string of pearls against the abyss. As they slipped the bonds of HFY's orbit, Admiral Arcturus raised a hand in salute to the receding world. "For humanity," she whispered. "And for every free mind in the galaxy," Rhea added, voice firm with conviction. Together, they turned toward the stars, hearts alight with the promise of a new era, one born from the crucible of war and the unyielding strike of humanity's final hope.